name is Sharron Schoenfeld. I live in Saskatoon. I've lived in Saskatoon all of my life, grown up on the prairies. Spent a lot of time as a child in the northern lake country of Saskatchewan. I paint right now. I used to be a textile artist and evolved through that into painting fabric and quilting it and everything. And then I'd go and paint fabric, and then I'd think to myself, okay, now I have to do something with this, and I'd have to cut it up and sew it and everything. And then I thought to myself, why aren't I just painting? So I started taking classes at the University of Saskatchewan Certificate of Art and Design, and was introduced to painting at that time. So I'd always had an interest in painting, but didn't understand the properties of paint. I didn't understand acrylic and oil and watercolor and all those kinds of things. So through that certificate program, I learned about paint, how it worked. I learned about composition, colors, light, shadow, all that kind of thing. So that was about 10 years ago that I did that. Went through the program and graduated. And the year I graduated, I also retired from banking after 40 years. And I was able to join an art group at that time. And from there, I've just been experimenting, taking classes, and just painting as much as I can. So most of my painting is, well, it's landscapes, floral, cityscapes. I do people, and I'm always switching back and forth. So after I'll do a couple of character homes, then I'll switch it up and go to landscape, just because I get bored doing the same thing all the time. So my painting process is, I guess because of my sewing and textile background, I like a lot of texture. So I've started building up my panel boards with molding paste. So I stamp into it with round circles and bubble wrap and, I don't know, that net stuff that you put onions in and roll things across it, and then let it dry, and then I sand it back a little bit. And from there I usually have a base coat of either a cadmium orange or a lot of bright colors to start my paintings with. So I guess I would call my style of painting as expressive realism, because you can tell what I'm painting. It's not like, you know, abstract where it's just really nice marks that all flow together and everything. You know what I'm painting, but it's not exactly like what you see. So I'm not aiming for a photograph or a likeness like that. I enjoy a lot of color and well, like I said, texture. So I put it on, I rub it off, I scratch into it. I do a lot of that kind of thing. My best time for painting is first thing in the morning. So I try and get down there every day, but that doesn't always happen just because life happens as well. But that's always my goal, get things done upstairs so that I can go downstairs to my studio. I also paint with an art group that every Monday we go and we spend the day at Grace Westminster Church and paint there. So I would say that I paint almost every day. And I do that, well, obviously because I love it. I get frustrated when I can't make art, but it's just the best thing for me to be able to do. You know, it just makes me, it fills me up. It makes me feel really good to be able to paint. Honestly, I can remember being about 4 or 5 years old and drawing on a green chalkboard. I drew out like an illustrated version of a horse's head at 4 or 5, and my mom and dad came in and went, "Oh, that's so good." And I don't know why I internalized that, and I just always remember that. And ever since then, well, even probably before then, that's always been my bent. You know, I spent a lot of time alone as a kid because my sister was older and had gotten married and left. So I was the only child kind of thing. There was only one TV channel. So what do you do in the evenings? And I drew all the time. I drew in school. I doodled at work when I shouldn't be talking on the phone, all those kinds of things. But I've just always done art. I don't have a formal education in it, except for that certificate program at the university, which I really enjoyed and was really good. But so I've always been an artist in one form or another, either craft. I've done clay work, I've done textiles, just whatever I could. And then I fell into painting, and that's been my passion ever since I learned how. My parents were creative, not in like so artsy, but my dad was, he was a businessman, but he made things all the time. He was always devising a new plan for a trailer that he wanted to make, and he'd design it, and he'd be creative and sort of think outside the box how he would do it. So he was creative in that way. And my mother was a fabulous singer. She had a very beautiful soprano voice and had her own radio program in Prince Albert in 1947. And so she was creative that way. She couldn't draw or anything like that, but there is some creativity there. And then I have a lot of cousins that paint, and they're very good as well. Yeah. And my kids all paint, and my husband's an artist. So yeah, there's a lot of art in our family. My granddaughter is 6. And I would say already she's an artist. Like, there's no getting around it. Her dad draws, and he's a tattoo artist, so she's been immersed in this kind of thing. And her and I go to the Ramey Modern Art Gallery whenever we can on the weekend and take part in they have a community thing every Saturday and Sunday where you can go and do art. And her and I will go there and spend 2 or 3 hours in that art room, and she'll draw and cut, and whatever they ask her to do, she can do, and she's very interested in it. But with somebody like her, I just always really encourage her to, like, however she's doing it, I think that's the right way, like, just go with what you're feeling and just express it. And the other thing is, a lot of people think that being able to draw or paint is some ability you have in your hand or something, but it's not. It's how you see things. And so I would say to just, if you've got an interest in it, take some classes, find people who are, good teachers, and just work at it. You can do it. And it may not look like mine or Ernest Lindner's or the Group of 7, but it'll look however it's going to look, and it'll be yours. Not very many paintings that I do are just from my mind. It has a starting point, and usually with photographs. So whenever I'm out and about, I have my camera with me, especially when we're up at the lake. We have a cabin at East Trout Lake, and my favorite thing to do up there is to go in the canoe, and we go along the shoreline of the lake. And like, I just take pictures the whole time. I'm supposed to be paddling. My husband's in the back just giving her, and I'm taking pictures, just more and more. So yeah, I've got thousands of pictures on my computer. When I go for walks, I take pictures. Just a couple of weeks ago, or actually it was just last week, I spent some time over in the university area of Saskatoon and was taking pictures of some of the older homes, and the leaves are starting to turn color and the light's shining through. So yeah, I take pictures all the time, and I have a really good filing system on my computer, so I know where they are. I can find them. And when I'm done one painting, I just say, what am I going to paint, So I just flip through my paintings, and something I saw 6 months ago, I just sort of flipped by, wasn't interested. All of a sudden it'll catch my eye, and that's what I'll want to do. So I have no shortage of resource material. I have done some plein air painting, but I'm nowhere near where I need to be yet. But I keep doing it because I enjoy being outside, and I love the colors. I love the feeling I get when I'm out there, and that's something that I'm working towards more. If I'm just going to do one color, it'll be cadmium orange. And because I like it when it peeks through, especially if you do a winter scene and it'll sort of make the snow and everything glow. And when I paint, I try and leave some of that to show through. And then other times I'll just do broad strokes of lots of different colors. And then I outline my whatever I'm going to paint in charcoal, then go over it with a thick dark line. I try and leave some of that background paint showing through and make it part of the painting, because I don't want to make it like a photograph. I want my own colors and my own, I want my imprint on what I'm painting. So sometimes I end up covering up too much and then I'll add and that kind of thing. But yeah, I like the glow, I like orange, I like the warm colors. Do you know, I can remember the day that I discovered pink and orange together. I was 10 years old, and I remember being in the Hudson Bay with my mom and found this dress that was pink and orange stripes. And I was just blown away. I loved the energy. It was so playful looking. But honestly, I just remembered that as being the day I discovered pink and orange, and ever since then, I use it all the time. Well, my long-term goal is to paint and get better and better. And like, that's just my goal. I just want to improve all the time. That's my short-term goal too, I think. Like, I do show with the art group that I belong to. It's called Artist Workshop. And we have a show every year. And then for the last 2 years, because of COVID, my son, who paints and is, I mentioned before, he's a tattoo artist, and he does, what's it called? The resin on tables and things like that. So he'll do a painting on a table and then he'll cover it with the resin. It's not called resin, but, and then my husband does metal art. And so the three of us have had an art show here for the last 2 years. And that was so much fun because there were no art shows around because of COVID. So it was in July and a lot of the restrictions had been lifted. So we were able to, we had lots of people through there. Everybody was so happy to get out and see some art and do things. So that's something that we may continue doing if, you know, it sort of depends what's going on in the world. But yeah, I like showing my art and selling it because I paint too much. I can't keep it all. I love the feeling of the older neighborhoods, like the nostalgia of, I don't know, just everything that's gone on for the last 100 years in those neighborhoods, and just the way the sun comes through the trees and hits the houses and that kind of thing. So yeah, I really enjoy painting them. I've painted a few from Nutana. I don't know if it's called King George or Riversdale, but I painted a really nice one from there. And yeah, it's been mostly, oh, and Caswell Hill, Mayfair. Those areas in there are familiar to me, and I've painted some from there. I have different feelings throughout the whole process. When I start something, I'm usually pretty quick. I draw it all in and I'll block it in with color, and that's really quick. And that's always sort of exciting for me. But then it gets down to the part where you go into a little bit more detail to refine everything, and sometimes that can be frustrating, but I always talk nice to myself and say, it's okay, you can get past this, you can do it. Because if it was really easy, the challenge wouldn't be there, it wouldn't be any fun, right? So I always talk to myself about it's okay, just keep going, and usually you get over that hump, and then you get to the part where it's all going smoothly and it's just the end part of refining it. I guess the best part about it is when it's finally done, because I'll set it up in my studio for a while and I'll come back and look at it. I never say it's done right away, but I keep coming back and looking. And then when I can finally sign my name and I feel that accomplishment that I finished it, I guess that's the best part about it. But the whole process, I enjoy it all. I love watching the paint go on. I love the combination of colors. I love trying to make it you know, it's all on there, and now I want to lift that leaf up from the flower so I can, you know, put a shadow underneath it, and you do that and you put a little highlight on the leaf and go, oh wow, it looks 3D now. So the whole process is, it's exciting for me, and it's very satisfying, and it's therapeutic and meditative. So the whole process is really good for me. I have to stop myself from making a painting, just a pretty painting of a flower. Like, I'm always trying to, like, I've got one downstairs that I'm working on right now. It's this big flower and it's all outlined, it's the right shapes and everything, but then I'm thinking, no, that's not what I want to do. It's not exciting, it's not, I don't know. So then I go and put marks all over it and try and mix it up a little bit. So I'm always striving to push it a bit so that it's not just like a photograph. I want to use my colors. I want to use, you know, rough lines, not always have everything all smooth and color in the lines. I want to be able to push it. There's a couple of artists that, well, the group of 7, I've always really loved them. Even as a teenager, I used to go to the Mendel, and I loved all the paintings by Lauren Harris and, you know, all the ones that they had there. So the group of 7, I really enjoy their colors and the freshness of their kind of painting. I also, in high school, was shown pictures of Ernest Lindner's. And he was a Saskatoon painter. He's since passed on. But when I saw what he painted, and he was actually from Saskatoon, I was just in awe. Like the depth and the life that he had in the scenery that he painted. So that was somebody that really inspired me. You know, somebody else that inspired me was when I was growing up, my best friend's mother was an artist, and her name's Jeanette Loden. And when I would go over to my friend's house, she'd always be in the kitchen. She had her canvas set up on a kitchen chair. I think she painted in oils. And that just inspired me that, you know, she could do all these fabulous paintings of her children and grandchildren. And I actually even took some classes from her as an adult. So those kind of people, especially when they're from where you're from, it seems more achievable than seeing, you know, Van Gogh, which I love, like all those kinds of paintings, they're great. But when it's somebody you know, or somebody that's from where you are, it just makes it seem more attainable. This painting is called Tulips Being Mellow, and you can see why I probably named it that way, because I think they're at their end of their life. They're just drooping and falling down. And that's one of the things that attracted me to paint it, is because they weren't all just perfect and standing straight up. I've started this painting off with a lot of texture. I've used molding paste to make all these little bubbles and rough spots. And my process is to do an underpainting first, and then I do it all in layers. So I didn't know when I started painting it how it was going to end up. I didn't know I was going to put a line there. I just start painting. And then I get to the point and I think, oh jeepers, what's it standing on? So then I make that. I really like it because I like the contrast in the colors of the orangey or the coral colors, and contrasting it with the green leaves. When I'm painting it, I almost take a dry brush and just take the brush and just put it across like this, so that the painting the paint color that's underneath will still show through when I put the brush across it. This is done on panel board, so it's a wood base. It's good for building up texture. You know, it's not like canvas would be kind of wobbly and that kind of thing. So I've switched pretty much over to the wood pieces. I think it's an interesting piece just because of the color and the subject matter. It's not a perfect bouquet of flowers, which is kind of fun.